Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Fits. I thought I would change Zen Live to Zen Fits. I just love that irony of having a fit, which is a little nuts, and fitting. So madness fits, right? And that's really what Zen is all about. It's a mad leap that makes everything fit. But you can't logically figure it out. You have to do it. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning, picking up yesterday where we left off, which was talking about the double bind of contradictory commandments. So we need to look into that a little deeper. And by looking into it deeper, I don't mean to look into what I'm saying deeper, which is, of course, what I mean, but I also mean to look into your own mind to see if this is true. In other words, these teachings, the Buddha Dharma, the Dharma of the Buddha, are basically an operating manual for understanding how your mind works. Imagine that if your mind is an operating system, like a computer, maybe it's a PC or a Mac, and you're tired of just doing what the computer is programmed to do. You want it to be creative. You want to make your own programs. And if something's wrong, you want to fix it yourself. You're tired of calling tech support. You're tired of having no idea what's going on when you push buttons. And it's just on autopilot. So this is like getting a manual on how to read the code of your mind, HTML, or Buddha Dharma is the code of your mind. It's very simple. It's very scientific. So I would think you would think that we would really be interested in understanding how the mind writes the world. What code does it use? In other words, the mind creates a world and we live in it. You don't live, the world is not created and you're outside of it like Yahweh. You are the world and the world is you. And each of us creates a world and lives in it like a painter lives in a painting he's creating. The painter and the painting are one. You and the world, you and your world are one world, but the illusion is, the belief is, the assumption is that it's separate and that this external world exists by itself as itself alone, and I'm somehow kind of like a ghost walking around in it, always bumping into stuff, and it's hurting me, or I hurt myself, and I don't understand why I suffer. Why do things go wrong when my intentions are good? Why do I end up at the wrong side of the street or in the wrong place? Why do things go wrong when my intentions are good? Well, you would think people would want to understand that. You would think. But the belief is, and this is culturally induced, is that the world and you are two separate entities. And you're in the world. You're in time. Running after time, you're in the world, like a marble is in a ring with other marbles. You're a thing among things. But this is not, this is just a culturally induced assumption of the West. It creates great stuff. It creates the scientific method, and it creates all the stuff that we come to take for granted, but it leaves out the most important factor. You as the creator of your world. So this Buddha Dharma, and this is what I talk about incessantly because it just comes up. Got a faucet. And this little Facebook Live is my cup. So I kind of like you have a cup of Zen. So we're going to look at where we picked up yesterday, because we really have to keep looking at this again and again from different angles, because you can't get a grasp of the simplicity of it with just one look. It takes a lifetime of looking. and I can speak from experience here. So yesterday we were talking about the double bind of contradictory commandments. Now, contradictory commandments means that you have two imperatives, two commandments, two imperatives that you have to obey, but they contradict each other, so you can't do them both at the same time. You can only do one or the other, but you can't do both because they contradict each other. They're like magnets that are opposite, so you can't put them together. Ooh, it won't go together. No matter how hard you push, you can't get the two to become one. So you either do one or the other. So let's look at this from so we were looking at this little diagram here as no and yes. So no cancels out yes, yes cancels out no. And yet they are one, you see. But they're two. They must be one, yet they're two. So this creates time trying to make the yes and the no become a yes that includes the no. You see, to get to the whole, seeking unity, we're seeking unity or relief. Well, this is tension, this is pain, because I'm split. This is schizophrenia, in the sense that when I'm divided, I can't choose myself. So I'm conflicted. I'm uncertain. I don't know which way is north. And usually we get into a group that points north, or we find some authority that tells us what to do. Religions are based on solving the pain of this split. If you get into a religion, then it just tells you there's only these commandments, do these commandments, and don't do and don't obey the other ones. And the way religion solved this, Christianity, was that the split between, this is God's commandments, and this is nature, flesh. So you don't obey that, and you just obey that. You see? So if you just obey God's commandment and you deny the flesh, well, you solved the problem. But have you? Now you can't. Now you're in constant warfare between obeying God, trying to be good, trying to be like Christ, and having the flesh say, "Well, I want to have some sex, or I want to have, I want to have something that I want, that the body wants." No, no, no. You see, that's evil. That's evil. So every system has a different way of solving this, but it all ends up in denying you. So let's dig into that a little bit, and if you break it down, you see that the division comes between thought and feeling. For instance, you're sitting there, or this happens, we got to look at everyday mind. So everyday mind, you're sitting there watching your TV program, you've been working all day, and you finally got a little space, or maybe you're working on Facebook, and the kid cries, or the wife calls and says, "Would you come and take the trash out?" Or something interrupts you. And your space, now this was my space. Can't you leave me alone? Can I have 5 minutes? All right, and so then you get up, or you say, "Well, go do it yourself," or you get up and say, "I'm coming," but inside you're going, "God damn it, don't I get a little peace here?" You see? So what's the split? The split is between thought and feeling. The feeling is, I'm irritated. The thought is, this should not be this way. I should be left alone. This is my time. But the feeling is, I'm irritated. So there's a feeling of being irritated, anxious, angry, and then there's the thought of, it should not be this way, which is the future thought. It should be this way. I should be at peace. I should be left alone. But I'm not, so I'm angry. You see, now there is a division between thought, which is future, and now, which is the irritation. Now that's a split in my mind. That's a split between body and thought. So how do I get out of that? Excuse me. How do I get out of that fix? You see, well, we try to first of all we say this is the feeling has a cause. Okay. The kid, the wife, the dog, the husband is the cause of this angry feeling that should not be in the future. It should not be. So I want to get to the future where it should not be by eliminating the cause. So now I try to fix the cause or remove it. See, now I got to fix the cause. I got to train the wife or train the husband, or I got to divorce them or shoot them. You see. But there are all kinds of strategies I'm going to take in order to get to the future where this should not be. So that creates time, and it creates continuous. It's called karma. It creates suffering. As soon as you get divorced, you got another problem. But it's very, very subtle. I mean, these are big things. I'm talking about just the everyday dis-ease with life, the everyday dysfunction, the everyday irritation, the everyday pricks and thorns and cuts, and if you were able to take a scope and look at the mind during the day, you would see it constantly being ding, 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 irritation, shouldn't be, shouldn't be, shouldn't be, all day long. And this creates stress disorder diseases. They accumulate. The body and the mind are one. So if the mind is constantly suffering because it should be in the future, instead of being where it is, the body is feeling, and body is now, the body is where it is, and the mind wants you to be in the future. This is a wound. In Christian terms, that's the wound in the side of Christ. Or the wound of the Fisher King in the Arthurian romances, the wound that cannot heal. The wound that cannot heal is this perennial split between thinking and feeling in the mind, a schism, and even if you look at the Genesis metaphorically, this is the original sin of Adam and Eve. When they ate the apple, they split the mind into thinking good and evil and feeling. They split paradise in two, and now we have future. And now we have, it should be better. You should be better. The world should be better than it is, you see. The world's a bad apple. It should be a good apple. This is a bad apple. It should be a good apple. This should. The tyranny of should. But you can't. There's no strategy to get out of that, because the strategy is saying you should be better. So the strategy creates the wound. So the only way out of this is, the only way for relief is not to become something. See, this is the idea of becoming. So our whole culture is based on becoming. You got to become happier. Pursue happiness. Become happy. Follow your dream. Become rich. Become this. Become that, you see. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that if that's it, you're on a treadwheel with like a hamster. It's called the wheel of samsara. You're constantly think you're going somewhere, but you're standing still. And finally you retire and have a martini and die. That's it. So this whole becoming something that is better than I am is the cause in the Buddha Dharma. This craving to become is the cause of our dis-ease and our suffering. This craving to become something and deny what is. So when we see that, when we see through and through that there is no exit from this double bind of contradictory commandments. The contradictory commandments here, imperatives, is that the truth is, see, now there's two truths. So I'm irritated because the dog is barking. or the wife is barking, or the husband is barking, and I'm irritated, all right? So that's a feeling. So the truth is, that feeling is what is. Now that we add this contradictory commandment that says it should not be this way. You see, so the truth is it should not be this way. But the other truth is it is this way. So you got two imperatives. It is this way. It should not be this way. Now, which is it? You can't put them together. So that creates a schism that generates suffering that must be relieved by future. So we got to get to the future, buy this thing, get a new husband, get a new dog, get something that get to where I should be. But when I get to should be, I'm still where I am. I'm still irritated and at disease because I have done nothing to see through the schism in the mind. So it's only seeing this in action that I'm causing this that begins to break it apart, to pull the cotton ball apart. You have to catch your mind. It's like the kid who steals the cookies. And the mother says, did you take? No, I didn't take the cookies. But then one day she comes in at night, or the husband who's stealing the cookies, I don't care, And so she comes in, turns on the light, and there he is with his hand in the cookie jar, caught in the act. So you have to see your mind doing this. And when you see your mind doing this, guess what? It stops doing it. It stops doing it when you see that you're doing it. It's like if there is a hot plate here and you have your hand on it unconsciously and you something is burning. Oh! So the seeing that my hand is on the hot plate and causing my burning, the seeing is the action. Seeing is not thought. Seeing or awareness is not thinking. Because if your hand's on the hot plate, you don't say, I think I should take it off. Should I take it off? Is that right? Should I take it off? It doesn't work that way. So seeing is action. Now action is body and seeing is mind. So when you see the truth, mind and body are one. When you see the see that is action, mind and body are one. Awareness and body are one. Thinking is not awareness. Thinking is a program. Thinking is your software. Thinking has a code. Thinking is about future. Feeling is not thinking. Feeling is now. So how do we get now? You can't get now as feeling married to or united with thinking, because thinking is always in time. Feeling is always now. Now and time are incompatible. But when we see, becoming becomes being. Being. Being is body. Be to body. Being is now. Being is body. Becoming becomes being. Now how can that happen? Well, the other truth of Buddha is impermanence. All things change. Now all things change is not like you watching all things change. No, you change. You are being. Being is change. Everything. Your body is changing. Your mind is changing. Thoughts, everything is changing. Nothing is a standalone thing. There are no nouns in nature. Everything's a verb. Everything is change. But we don't see that because we believe we are outside of it, watching it. I can watch time. I can look at change. Oh, everything is changing. But I'm not changing because I'm looking at it. I've separated myself from it so I can see it all change. I'm standing on the riverbank watching impermanence go by. But that's an illusion, because I'm in the river. At the same time, I'm watching it, you see. So that I'm in the river, which is being, feeling, while I'm watching it, thought, you see. If I don't see that I am change, that I am being, then I have separated myself from being and I'm in pain. Because I've just put myself in exile from myself, from my own experience. I'm outside my own experience now, you see, judging it. Oh, I shouldn't have that experience, you see. So I need a better experience. I got to become a better experience. I'm chasing experience, you see, rather than being experience. So when I see that, when I see with the eye, that the seeing that is action, being becomes change. Being and becoming become one, because being is becoming. Becoming means change. Change means it's becoming something. So you are becoming something, and when you see that, you become liberated from the pain of not seeing it. You see? And then you gradually, you work on this. This is the Dharma. This is the practice of the Dharma. You begin a spiritual practice of seeing. And you use the suffering as the means to see your way through suffering. You use your irritation, you use your double binds, the complement, the contradictory commandments. You use these double binds as breakthrough cones, as breakthrough gateless gates. So you break through the suffering by seeing. And the seeing is always outside of the double bind, because the seeing is not conflicted. Seeing does not have a schism in it, is not two, and that, seeing is one. But when I'm two, I can see that I'm one by seeing through the double bind, the operating system and the code, you see. Okay, well, thank you for dropping in, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you this evening.